Mike, can't wait to see you later this afternoon or early this morning, man, depending on you look at it. We got a lot of things to ask you about, including the luncheon later on. But I want to start with this Memphis, Arkansas possibility that Penny Hardaway was talking with the Commercial Appeal about. Mike, how attractive is that to you to see maybe Arkansas and Memphis meet up yearly on the hardwood?
Yeah, it would be big. For some reason, even though they played some in the past, the series itself never became consistent. And it's just such a natural thing. Arkansas recruits in that area. The two states are next to each other. It's just a logical thing to do. And so hopefully it'll happen. Exciting news, with that and Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC. People talk about Texas coming back as a rival, but I think Oklahoma potentially could be an even bigger rival as that football series, starts to heat up because the two fan bases are right next to each other. That's what creates a rivalry, like Alabama, Auburn, or whatever.
Yeah, and I didn't know about the Western Arkansas distaste for Oklahoma fans until I arrived here in the River Valley, Mike. And Tommy, that's his least favorite fan base is the Oklahoma fans. Not Oklahoma people themselves, but Sooner fans. So like yourself, I'm pumped about that. That is going to be fun. Now, I don't know if you saw the story from Pete Thamel. One of the things they're discussing next week in Destin at the spring meetings is the possibility of an SEC-only playoff. Could that work?
Well, I guess you could do it. Here's my take on that. I think it's a threat. I think Greg Sankey put it out there because he's frustrated because nothing happened, when they talked about what the future of the playoffs were. I mean, he stated that you don't want to wait till this current system runs out to figure out what you're going to do next. He wants advanced planning, and he's frustrated because they haven't been able to come up with anything, and it's mostly people from the other conferences. There's all this frustration of, wait a minute, if we expand, it'll just mean more SEC teams are in it. And I think he's saying, hey, if you don't get your act together and help us with this thing, we'll just do it ourselves. We've got the best teams anyway. We'll go off and play in our own backyard, and you guys can drop dead. But I don't think it's a serious thing. I think it's more of a warning or a threat.
Mike Irwin with us, the Pig Trail Nation, kind enough to join us as he's getting ready for his formal induction to the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sports Writers Hall of Fame coming up at lunch today. Mike, I want to talk to you about baseball. They're supposed to play around 1. Rain could push that back / prohibit them playing today. And I know you've talked about this extensively on the Pig Trail Nation about how fans feel about this team right now. Do you think it's fair for fans to be dissatisfied based on where they started as the preseason number 2 in the country, preseason All-SEC guys, preseason All-American, to how this regular season has concluded to this point?
I don't even think it's a matter of what's fair. I think it is what it is. When you have a program like this, which has been top 5 over the last several years, and you've got the best facilities in baseball, the best fans in baseball, what do you expect them to be? I was stunned when Dave Van Horn dropped that little bit of information on us before he left for Alabama, basically saying that the players were upset and he felt bad for them, and it wasn't the whole fan base, but maybe 10%. Look, you got to ignore social media. What are you, 5 years old? These players are mad because somebody tweets? You got baseball to play. Stop that. It's not a good look, Ty. It's not.
And to go off that point, one of the things that was mentioned to me last week by someone whose baseball knowledge far exceeds my own is the change within the Arkansas baseball culture. You've had good recruiting classes before, but now you have the number 1 ballpark in the country. You have the number 1 facility in the country. You have statistics and metrics that some colleges can't even dream about trying to produce. You're getting to select anyone you want, not just in Arkansas, but in travel ball. Is that going to, how do you balance being that blue collar, hard nosed Dave Van Horn type of program, Mike, with now being able to select recruits from anywhere in the country who, in some cases, might be pretty boys.
I don't know. It is an issue, I think, and as much as I think we all like the fact that they've got that new facility and we all toured it, and it is fantastic. People have told me there are major league teams that don't have that kind of interior place to work every day. But what I hear from a lot of fans, and they're frustrated, so this may not be accurate, but they're like, well, what, they sit up there in the lap of luxury. What does Tennessee have? Go look at their facilities. So they can't get so content in their setting that they forget what they're there for. And I think there's a frustration there, whether it's deserved or not, by some fans.
And to go off that, and we're talking with Mike Irwin, Pig Trail Nation, by the way, who's going to be inducted into the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sports Writers Hall of Fame later on, coming up around lunch. I think the frustration is, Mike, is when folks walk by or see Dave at a game or on television, they still see that fire. This isn't a coach that's lost it, but it's trying to inject that same fire into guys on campus that you thought you didn't need to in certain cases, but it hasn't happened. So I wonder on that standpoint what Dave can do in the coming weeks to get his team over the edge. Maybe that was a rally cry. You mentioned the comments. Could you see those comments being a rally cry, trying to make it's us against the world at this point? Do you think that was his intentions by talking to the media about certain fans?
Yeah, it could have been. The way he explained it, was he wanted his players to know he had their backs. The issue is going to be, I think we're going to figure out some things today if they play today. The best thing to me that could have happened to them is to turn around and play Alabama again, and we'll see if they respond. But there's so many questions about this team, Ty. I'm not sure I know what's wrong. It could be this team has been overrated from day one. In other words, the talent is there, but just like with the basketball teams, we've seen Coach Musselman struggle sometimes with putting a really talented lineup together, and yet it doesn't work for a while. And in Van Horn's case, they just haven't figured out a way to make this thing pull together. And we're late in the season, and they're still trying to make it happen. And it's mostly with the batting lineup. The hitting has gotten a little bit better in terms of stringing hits together, and that's been the issue. Don't make the mistake of looking at batting average. People say, well, they actually have a higher batting average than last year. It's not what your team averages. It's what you do in consecutive at-bats. They've hit too many solo home runs this year. Solo home runs give you one run in an inning, and you get beat like that. So the hitting has improved a little bit in stringing hits together, but then suddenly the pitching goes south, and nobody can figure that out. What's happened to Connor Nolan? People forget just a few weeks ago he pitched 7 innings of one-hit baseball at Florida. What has happened since then? He's a great guy. Nobody's worked any harder. Nobody works any harder than Robert Moore. Why has his hitting dropped off? Why is he not hitting home runs anymore? These things don't make any sense, and I don't have any answers for that.
Now, this team has a chance to turn it around with how the regular season concluded. They are likely going to have to do that on the road. A team that won't have to do it on the road is this Arkansas softball team come tomorrow night. The Texas Longhorns in town. How much would a series super regional win over Texas put this fan base behind this softball program? It's not like it isn't already, but Mike, how much fire would be injected into this fan base towards the softball program if Courtney Deifel and company pulled it out against the Longhorns this weekend?
Yeah, it's just another step, getting to doing that and then getting to Oklahoma City for the first time. And, the future looks really bright for that softball program. And I'm not sure I've ever thought this would happen, but they're going to have to add more seats as this program continues to get better. They're going to have to figure out something, because I don't think the facility is big enough. This is a softball area anyway when you talk about local high schools. So if you have a program like that on campus, and I was discussing this the other day, I'm not sure they're not the best program on campus right now. It's either softball or basketball, but both of them are up there in terms of recruiting and what they've been able to do. And it's kind of like waving a flag at the other programs and saying, hey, get with the program. I mean, look, they've almost eclipsed baseball and embarrassed them in some ways. I mean, it's almost like if I'm on that baseball team, I'm happy for them, but at the same time, I want to go, wait a minute here. They're stealing some of our thunder. This time of year, people are usually talking about Razorback baseball. So it's big over there. The thing you like about them is they just don't keep you on the edge of your seat like we've seen with baseball over and over again. They just go out and beat people. And even if there's a couple of 3 innings in the middle of a game where it's kind of close, you know they're going to have a big inning sooner or later. And with the pitching they've got, when you're holding teams to no runs or 1 run, it's pretty hard to lose games.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. 6 o'clock tomorrow night on ESPN2. Mike's been covering this team for 46 years. Mike, be honest, how many times have you guys been extensively on softball? Not a lot, right? Well, I think you had the last couple days and last couple months, I would think.
Well, I have, unlike Otis admitted the other day, I have been there before. I've actually shot games over there, but, you know, there's never been this sort of emphasis, and it's really fun, and the soccer team has done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way this whole program is expanded under Hunter Yurachek. This was Frank's dream anyway when he took over as AD. He wanted the total program. You know, he wanted to win that. I don't think they'll ever win that, whatever they call that thing, for the best overall athletic program in the country, because they don't play enough sports like they do out in California, where they have all this, you know, everything they compete in sports Arkansas doesn't compete in. But they're up there, and it's fun to watch all of these programs get better and better.
Last thing for me, Mike, and again, we really appreciate you, Mike, making some time for us. You, alongside Chris Mortensen, Mike Nail, and Bob Holt, will be formally inducted. You guys have been selected, and now it's happening, coming to fruition into the Arkansas Sportscasters and Sports Writers Hall of Fame. Any thoughts on those 3 gentlemen and colleagues to a certain degree before we let you go?
Well, I worked alongside or around Mike Nail for almost 4 decades. Bob and I still see each other all the time because we're both still working. And then Chris Mortensen, I watched him for a lot of years before I ever met him. And he's just the consummate professional. He's a true TV journalist, and that's rare. His word is gold. You hang on what he says if you're an NFL fan. So it's really nice to go in with that group of people. And then I was looking at the list of people that are already in the hall, and I saw Dizzy Dean there. I'm sorry, I saw not Dizzy Dean. I've gone brain dead. Good grief! The guy from Arkansas, the major league pitcher. Ty, help me out here.
I'm not the baseball guy. I will look it up real quick to see if I can find it for you. But
Dizzy Dean. Did I say Dizzy Dean?
You did, yes.
Yeah, Dizzy Dean. I first watched him on television when I was 5 years old. Kid next door to me, I had the first TV in the neighborhood, and he said, "Hey, come over. There's a major league game." And he was the announcer along with Pee Wee Reese. And if you had told me that I would someday be in a Hall of Fame with Dizzy Dean, I'd be like, "Are you crazy?" So this is kind of a big deal to me. I'm really looking forward to this later on today.
Well, Mike, I'm looking forward to be able to seeing you and congratulate you. You've been instrumental in my radio career alongside Clay, who's going to be there, Bob, who's been awesome to me. I've got a chance when I was on halftime to hear from Mike Nail with Phil, so it's going to be a great lunch, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and the rest of the crew out there coming up in a couple hours, man.
Okay, see you later on today.
All right, good stuff from Mike Irwin of the Pig Trail Nation.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.